Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite obsessions, travel, but in a different way than maybe we do before. A lot of my guests travel because they really decide to move to another place or because they have this calling. But today's guest started her life by being a transplant in some ways and then moved again from Italy to the UK and to Canada. And we're going to get into how all of these moves and having parents that moved before you were even born plays into your sense of identity. I'm so excited to welcome today's guest. Urmi is a woman who wears many hats. She's a self-published author, speaker, blogger, polyglot, and I believe English is your third language. So that to me is already so impressive. She's a mentor and holder of both the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analyst, and the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst designations in Canada because she is a corporate girly working a 9 to 5 in the financial services in Montreal, but her passions about women's empowerment keep her busy from 5 to 9. She's the social media lead for Women in Leadership's Victoria chapter and the campaign manager at Femme Influence. And if all of that wasn't enough to show that she is out creating a life that really is worth obsession, she believes that if you have to be the change you want to see in the world. But she's also published her first book, Discovering Your Identity, a rebirth from interracial struggle, which reflects her journey as a third culture kid. Thank you for coming on Becoming Obsessed. I know you're hopping on a flight to Singapore later today, so I appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to connect with you.
I really want to start with the book. I've spoken to authors, and I know that writing the book is one part of the journey, but even the decision to write it and almost the permission and deciding, this is the topic that I'm going to speak on. I want to hear more about that journey for you.
Yes, basically, how this whole idea of writing the book came, it was because I was inspired by another self-published author, and I read her first book, which was called Confessions of a Brown Girl. And I remember I was obsessed with the book. Like, I was literally obsessed with the book because I bought it, and then the moment I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like she's like telling my actual like life story. And so then I reached out to her and I was like, oh, how did you like write your book? What was the process? And she was like, oh, it was super easy. You just have to like write down the draft and then you can just self-publish it on your own on Amazon. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, that's great, because I used to think that the only way to publish a book was only if you're going through a publishing company. But in reality, now we live in an era where you can pretty much do anything that you want and you can pretty much put out there anything that you want. And I was like, okay, so if that's the case, then I can do it too. And what I liked about the conversation that I had with her was that she actually felt that for her, the writing process was very therapeutic and it was sort of like journaling moment for her because she really was going through a lot of issues and struggles and challenges. And she was like, I needed to put my thoughts out there somewhere. And that's how my book was born. And I was like, okay, so I guess I can do the same thing too. And there was a lot going on also in my head, meaning that there was so many thoughts. And I was like, I also want to write them down somewhere. And that's how the book came.
I love that. That, in so many ways, is what this podcast is for me. It's kind of therapeutic, and it's this way to explore the experience that I'm having and kind of mark this moment in time of like, this is what I'm going through when I record this episode. And, the beginning episodes of Becoming Obsessed in 2023 probably look a little different than where I am now. And having that kind of timestamp, that thing that you've published that you can look back on is really cool. I read the title of the book in English. I'm curious, did you write the book in English?
It's only in English.
I'm curious of how you made that decision.
It's because I wanted the book to be exposed to as many people as possible. So I feel like if I was just sticking it to one single language, such as, Italian and so forth, it was just targeting that kind of population. But I wanted my book to be exposed to everyone in the world. And given that English is the most spoken language, I was like, I'm going to stick to that. And I was lucky enough that I found someone on Fever. I don't know if you're familiar with Fever, the platform where you find freelancers. And that's how basically, like, I found someone and I said, look, I need help with the title. And then I said, this is my first time. I have no clue how to do any of these things, but I need you to help me with the editing, formatting, cover page, and so forth. So she really guided me. And basically, my job was really to give her the draft. I had the draft
Mhm.
ready and she just had to go over it and help me to like tweak it a little bit and come up with a title that was encapsulating my whole concept of the book. That's how the title was created.
I talk a lot about identity on this podcast and often talk about it in a way of, people say to be yourself, but no one teaches you how to be yourself. And for me, I'm kind of like a one culture kid. I'm an American. Maybe I have grandparents from Ireland or, the Czech Republic, but I don't have this sense of culture or this sense of kind of division. And so for me, I'm always like, okay, who do I think I am? Let's look into who I am without always having to process the context of where I live and where I come from. I've heard you speak on other podcasts. I think it's called The Third Culture Kid. And you were sharing this of having this experience where you're like, okay, I'm in one place and I feel like I can't fully be myself. I'm in another place. Maybe I feel like I can't fully be myself. And something I found with traveling personally is I almost get to step out of part of the expectations or assumptions of who I should be and be myself. And I'm curious to hear more about that experience when you have so many layers and so many amazing cultures.
So I'm just going to go back to some of the things that you have touched upon. You spoke about identity. And for me, like, it was important to find my cultural identity because of the context where I grew up. Like I always say, I'm Italian by birth, Bengali by blood. And so there was a lot of challenges there where, like you mentioned earlier, like I never felt like I belonged. I felt like I was misplaced. I feel like I did not fit in. I never felt I was Bengali enough. I never felt I was Italian enough. And that was a struggle for me because I feel like, especially when you're young, you always want to confirm and you always want to feel like you're belonging. You always want to fit in. The issue became stronger when I moved to Canada when people would ask me, oh, where are you from? And I struggled because I did not have a clear answer. It took me a while to come up with an answer to really understand myself and who I wanted to represent from a cultural point of view. And it was through little cues that I finally came up with the conclusion, which is being Italian Bengali. But this struggle of identity, or I would say, like, we talked about traveling. Yes, you can be whoever you want to be and be yourself. And when you travel, especially, there is no expectations and you don't have to perform a role. But it's still a big struggle because now when I travel, sometimes people ask me where I am from. And I do not know if they mean the country where I'm living in right now, which is Canada, or if they talk about my origins, if they talk about where I was born. I don't know if they're asking me where I studied. I don't know if they're asking me where I'm working. I don't know if they're asking where my parents are from. So even like I feel like I solved one part of this puzzle, but when I travel, I still struggle. I still struggle because I do not know where they're trying to ask me when they are saying, where are you from?
Yeah. You told a story on the Third Culture Kid podcast about you and your sister both, you know, speaking Italian with a little bit of a different accent. And
Yes.
I think it is this thing where when you see somebody who doesn't necessarily fit your expectations, whether you're traveling or not, whether they're traveling or not, there's this curiosity. And some people know how to keep their mouth shut. Some people are willing to have the conversation, and some people have no tact about it.
Actually, what you just mentioned about people asking me and my sister where we were from, because here's the thing, and I was in UK. Of course, my parents live in UK, so I go to UK pretty often. And me and my sister, we look pretty much alike. And we are Bengali by blood, and so we look Bengali. But our language of communication is Italian. So when me and my sister were together, we only speak Italian. And we were in this store, which was basically a traditional Desi store. It was like an Indian store where they sell traditional clothes. So basically, me and her, we were speaking in Italian. Then these people in the store, they're just staring at us because they're like, okay, they look alike. They're speaking a language which is not Bengali. And then they're asking us in English, oh, where are you guys from? So she has the British accent. I have a non-British accent. And so then they are even more confused because we look alike. We use a language that is not ours. And then when we speak in English, we have completely two different accents. So people were like super, super confused. So she said, oh yeah, I'm like live in UK. And I said, oh, I live in Canada. But even there, like, I feel like it just opened up a conversation because we stopped it there, but the conversation could have gone on and on and on and on and on and on and on about why we have two different accents, about why we're using Italian as a language. It's beautiful, but complex at the same time.
I am a person who loves traveling, and I think it's because until I was 19, 18, 19, never left the United States. I saw the ocean one time, maybe a couple times, but I'm just in the middle of the United States, surrounded by cornfields most of my life. And so I love now getting to travel and getting to all these places and flipping through your Instagram. I'm like, oh, Lisbon, Portugal, like London, Montreal, and all of these places. And I'm like, I could probably talk to you about travel forever, but I'm curious what your relationship with travel and with moving around is, because you were born in Italy, but
Yeah.
then moved to the UK and then moved to Canada. And I don't know how many of those moves were you deciding or your family deciding to move.
Yeah, I would say for a big chunk, I never decided on moving. And here's the thing, I always tell people like Italy is my home,
Mhm.
but I don't have a physical home there, for instance, which is something that I always feel sad about because I feel like when I look at my high school friends, all of my friends, they do have a home in their hometown, a place where they can always go back and relive their memories. Like you can go back to your hometown and see your high school, your library, the park where you played, and all these things. I don't have one in my home, like in my heart, Italy is my home. And so that's something that I always feel a bit bittersweet about it because even like last year, I went back to Italy and I did a high school reunion and I went back to see my old home, which belongs to someone else. There are new people living there now. And I was looking through the building and I was just reliving those memories, but I was very sad because I feel like I cannot go inside because my parents do not live there. Since I was a kid, my parents always moved. So we moved from Sicily to the north. We went to UK, came back to Italy. So all those decisions were always made by my parents. And if it was up to me, I would have never moved, to be honest. But I feel like all of this moving, like the fact that I have moved so much, I think it helped me to see the world from a different perspective. And I feel like I was exposed to different things and I was able to see different things when I was a kid. And then moving to Canada, it was my own decision. But I feel like if I could go back, I would never have moved from Italy. Probably not. I would have not moved to Italy, but looking back at how it is, it was a good thing that I did move because I think outside there are better opportunities.
I'm curious if you see yourself staying where you are in Montreal for, a while, the foreseeable future, forever, or if you start to feel that kind of urge for something different.
So here's the thing. It's a very peculiar thing about our culture, kids, is that we're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And once you start moving, you're always moving. So to answer that question, I would say yes on a short term, but not
Mhm.
for a long term.
And even I can relate to that. and you find a place that really serves you, that you feel that you build your community. And yet there's always going to be kind of that next place that you're dreaming about. Before we started this call, told you I was going to be a little bit selfish. I am headed to Italy for
So
a month
nice.
later this year, and I will be transparent. My partner and I have not chosen the places we're going to go yet. I need an island, I need the ocean and the beach and swimming. So we're definitely going to go somewhere in the south, maybe in Sicily, and then Milan and Florence are kind of our two in the middle. And then we want to get up to the mountains. Tell me what I can't miss, or tell me what I need to put into the itinerary.
So there are a few places that you should put in your itinerary, meaning that for sure, like if you do Sicily, as a visitor, you're gonna live the Dolce Vita as a visitor. Okay, this is as a visitor, meaning that you're really gonna live your life because you'll be able to really taste it from every sense the beauty of the life in Sicily because it's very laid back and it's really about enjoying every bit of it. And you're gonna love the food there because it's just so fresh and tasty. And as soon as you move up, you definitely have to go to Rome. I think Rome has a charm that other cities do not have. I mean, they're all very different from each other, but Rome has a golden look. Like as soon as you land to Rome, you will feel it. Everything is just so goldish. I don't know how to explain it. Like the monuments, everything is just gold, and you have to go to Rome because there is so much history there and there is so much to see and explore, like Piazza di Spagna, the Vatican City, all these things, the Colosseum. You have to go there because Rome has a different flavor, and also like trying their typical cuisine like carbonara, cacio e pepe, la matriciana, all these things. You have to go and try them. Their coffee is pretty good. And as you move up, definitely Florence is very pretty, especially their Duomo, which is the one in Florence. Like it's the main one, the main like cathedral, which is so pretty aesthetically. Like it's just, I don't know how to explain it. No matter which angle you go to, like it's just so pretty. And then you have to go to Venice. Venice, it's just so unique because everything is just in the water and you're not gonna see this anywhere else. The problem about going to Italy is that in the summer, and I don't know when you're going, is that it's overly crowded. So there is a lot of tourists, which is something that I think has becoming not an issue, but there's a lot more tourists right now. So it's overly crowded. There's people everywhere. They're like, there are lineups. So that's the only thing, especially like those main cities like Rome, Venice, Florence. But for instance, Venice, you have to go on the gondola, like you have to do those little things. You have to go Piazza San Marco and Milan, which is my city because I have lived a big chunk of my life. It's a fashion city. And so if you want to buy things, definitely Milan is your place to do it. And Milan has a different kind of beauty because I'm a city girl. It does gives you that vibes, meaning that Milan is the city that will give you that vibe of being in a city. And there's a lot of things with fashion. There's a lot of companies there, like big firms, a lot of good universities, honestly, like Bocconi, Bicocca, La Scala, which is the theater. Milan is probably my favorite city after Rome. And of course, if you move up to the north, you're gonna have more places with mountains. So if you like skiing and things like that. So there is a lot of things to do. Like I was mentioning earlier, like you cannot get bored and you will not be
Mhm.
disappointed by anything at all. My suggestion is that if you want to live like a local, avoid those touristic places because as soon as you move from those areas, you are paying less, but you're getting better quality.
Yeah, I love that perspective. We are framing it a little bit of, let's pick four cities or regions where
Yeah.
maybe, it's a couple hours in the middle to get to another place, but I need my ocean vibes. That is like what I am craving, is I just want to be on a beach, and that is going to be the start of our trip. But I love that you mentioned Venice, because my partner and I were just debating, and I said, I'm okay not going to Venice because it's so touristy that I feel like I didn't have a personal draw to it, but he is an engineer. And he was like, I want to go because it's such an engineering feat. It's such a cool,
Yes.
like you said, something you can't see anywhere else.
Yes.
We've basically decided that if we can make it work to stop for maybe a couple days, maybe a day or a couple days, but not stay there for multiple nights, then that's, I think, what we're going to try and do.
Yes, and here's the thing, like if you want my suggestion, like if you want to start from the south, you're definitely gonna get the beach vibe because you have the beach in the south, especially like in Sicily. And then as soon as you move up, like let's say in Puglia, Puglia has really nice beaches too. And then, like you can start from the bottom and walk like and go up. And then like I would have said, you do Sicily, then you do, let's say, the central. So maybe you can focus in Rome, then you go up and you go to Venice. And Venice, honestly, you don't have to spend days. You can do literally one day. Like I used to do,
Okay.
do 1 day trip to Venice because it's more than enough. Honestly, it's more than enough. The only place where I feel like you have to spend a bit more time is really Rome because there's so much to see. There's really so
Hmm.
much to see in Rome. Same thing with Florence. I think you can really spend a day or two. You don't need to spend more because it's a very small city. And then Milan too, you can spend like 2 days. You don't have to spend days and days and days in any of these cities. But I would say Rome is probably the one where you have to spend most of the time. If you want to get the beach vibe, then you want to stay a bit more in the south because as soon as you go to the north, you're not gonna find really nice beaches. Like maybe one that I know is Rimini, which is more like a party city. And so there is a
Hmm.
lot of like young people going there to party, but I suspect it's gonna be really overcrowded. And some places that I feel are a bit overcrowded is Amalfi Coast, which is
Yes.
overly crowded. Capri too, they're overly crowded. But I heard, for instance, good things about Napoli. It has its own charm, and apparently the coffee in Naples is pretty good. Like it's strong, like the people who live there, because people who live in Naples are known to be like loud and very distinctive in the way they
They need
communicate.
strong coffee.
Yes, I heard it has its own like it's different from the rest of Italy. I've never been there. If you want to get a local vibe, definitely Naples.
Okay, amazing. We'll be going in August or September,
Awesome.
hopefully end of season, a little
Perfect.
bit less crowded. So I've been to Rome before, and I think my partner, I think Nick has been as well, but I know he hasn't done Vatican City and some of the big things. And so we're probably going to fly in and out of Rome and hit some of those things again. I mean, how can you kind of beat the Colosseum and the Roman history there?
Yes, and the little streets in Rome are so pretty. They're so picturesque. Like really, they're like narrow city, they're rocky a little bit, and then you have those, the green leaves come from the building, and you sit outside and enjoy your meal. Like it's just so pretty. It's really like Emily in Rome. I don't know if you watched the
Yeah.
TV show. It's literally like that. It's so pretty, honestly. Rome has a charm. It's a golden
Yeah.
charm. That's how I think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited. I am very grateful for all of your recommendations too.
Thank you.
Before we get into kind of our last series of questions, I'm not going to ask for, any financial advice or anything in that realm, but I know that you do work with women and women empowerment groups. I'm curious how you kind of got into that. I think a lot of us, as women, we need somebody to pull us in and show us, like you were saying earlier, the book you read that helped you see what was possible. And I'm just curious a little bit about maybe the ecosystem around you and kind of your part in it.
Yes, all the work that I've been doing related to women's empowerment just came from my own personal experience, meaning that I've seen how women are treated in the South Asian society, and there is a lot of gender stereotypes, gender biases, and if you're a woman, you're always seen like a burden, unfortunately, for a lot of the families, and I've seen it also in Bangladesh. And as I was growing up, I always felt like I needed a female figure to look up to it, but I did not have that especially because when I was born, I was probably one of the first from the community who was Bengali. So there was really no one that I could look up to. And there was no one from my same cultural background that I could go and ask for guidance. And so that's why I was like, okay, I want to do something to change that narrative. And, the quotation, be the change you want to see in the world from Gandhi is something that I can relate to. So I was like, you know what? I'll be that change and I will be the mentor that I never had. So I started to do a lot of female mentorship. I started to, mentor for several organizations, and I've been affiliated with many, many organizations like 100 Women in Finance, Femme Palette. Now there is Women in Leadership, Femme Influence. So I've been doing a lot of this work for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years. And I've done, honestly, a lot of different things. I've connected with women from different cultural background, from different social status, and from different countries. Like it's been really empowering for me as well, because I feel like I was able to learn a bit more about their stories, their struggles, their challenges, and I love the connections that come from it. Like I always, like I'm a big advocate for female mentorship, and I always say that it's never about titles. It's about an exchange of ideas, and it's a collaboration. I always say that you as a mentor, you learn as much as your mentee learns from you, and you have to be with that open type of mindset. Just because you're a mentor, you should not feel like you're entitled or that you have a certain power, because that can be demeaning. I think that's how you say it, or that, yeah, I think that can be really demeaning. And so I feel like the fact that I was always very open minded to learn from my mentees and mentors as well, it helped me to get more confidence and also to give back to the women that I have mentored. So I've been doing this for a while now, part of the Women in Leadership organization as a social media lead. So I promote a lot of the work that we do. We have coming up in 2 weeks the Women Leadership Day, which is basically a day where, you meet in person, you connect with the other women, you mingle around. There are speeches, panel sessions. So that's a lot of fun. And I am part of the organization Femme Influence, where basically the job is really to empower the community in South Africa. And it's basically a community of less privileged women. And we teach them about like clean hygiene, mental health, and self defense, things like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for the work you're doing for women because we just need more of us stepping up a little bit. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to start an organization or, you know, quit your 9 to 5, but finding those ways to get involved. I just really appreciate what you're doing. And when you reached out about chatting, I was like, okay, yes, I want to talk to this woman about all of this. I have a last few series of questions for you. I call these my obsession questions because I
Nice.
want to know what you're currently obsessed with. And especially when it comes to maybe what's filling your cup, books, podcasts, even entertainment or mentors that are really pouring back into you. I'm curious what you're learning from lately.
I love the question, but this question has a long answer, especially because it's been really hectic for me because I've been doing like back to back things. And one thing that I have done recently was to go to Chicago for a conference, and I had the opportunity to speak and be part of a panel session. And now I'm obsessed with conferences. I'm like, I just want to keep going to conferences and keep attending them, being part of them, connecting with people, because there's a lot of opportunity of learning that you get from conferences because you attend a presentation and then you're taking notes and you learn all these different things that you would have not never thought about. And so conferences is something that I've been very obsessed, and I did that in Chicago. It was my first time. It was so much fun. I said I loved it. I loved it so much. And the other thing that I love a lot is reading books. And I'm reading this trailer right now. It's called The Boyfriend. And it's from this author who's really famous. I forgot her name right now. I'm obsessed with the book. I'm obsessed because it just sucks you in as soon as you start. And basically, the whole plot is that there is this woman who's looking to date, but she has a lot of failing relationships. And then she meets this guy who seems to be too good to be true, but I think he's a murderer. So he goes around and kills women. And apparently, there is a plot twist, which I haven't reached yet. but I'm obsessed with it. Like I'm obsessed with mystery and thriller books because they suck you in, they keep you hooked, and you just want to find out, okay, who killed who. And so, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I'm also a big conference girly. I'm actually headed to Canada for the first time in a couple weeks to go to a conference in Toronto with it's a more of a small like women's summit, I guess. So there'll I think be like 60 people
Okay.
in the room, but that is some of my highlights in the last like 8 months have just been these conferences with other really amazing women who are out making things happen.
Yeah. Conferences are amazing. And honestly, it was my first time attending this type of conference. It was basically related to finance, but I attended another one actually like 2 weeks ago, and it was about public speaking. I was obsessed. I was like, the public speaking one, it was unbelievably good because you hear speakers doing actual competition, speech competition, and you're so amazed by how good they are. And then you feel motivated to keep working on this type of skills because you feel like, oh my God, these people are source of inspiration. So you feel so inspired. So honestly, I love conferences and there is like so much that you can learn, so many connections. And it was so funny. So this conference that I just attended, which was about finance, I actually got to meet some finance YouTubers and influencers that I used to follow. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people are here. I was like, oh my gosh, I met some famous people.
You're like, it's so surreal sometimes when you're like, I've only seen you on a
Oh,
screen, but I feel like I
exactly.
know you.
Exactly. It's so funny because I've seen them in real life and I was like, wow.
In Omaha, Nebraska, in January, we have a conference called Women with Voices.
Okay.
It's one day. There was about 300 women there this year. So maybe I can convince you to come to Omaha for a few days and we can get you a
Wow.
ticket because I think you would really love.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah, and I always love getting people to Little Omaha, Nebraska. It's actually a gem, but you would never necessarily think to come here.
Oh, lovely.
I have another obsession question because as somebody who has so many cultures and has lived in so many places, what is your favorite food? What are you obsessed with right now when it comes to food? I feel like you would have some recommendations that maybe I wouldn't think of.
So here's the thing, and it's an easy answer. It's an easy answer. I'm obsessed with pasta. I'm literally am.
Mm.
I can breathe, eat, live pasta every day and never be tired of it. And when I was in Chicago, I was craving for pasta because during the conferences they were giving you food, but I was looking for pasta. There was no pasta. And then I paid $35 USD, which is equivalent to $50, which for me was like insanely expensive. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. And so I had this fettuccine alfredo with butter and cheese. And I was like, this is so good. I'm obsessed with pasta and I'm obsessed with pasta al pesto genovese, which is the green pesto. And if you go to Genova, make sure to have that because it's like fresh and it's just so tasty, honestly. It's just so tasty. So I'm obsessed with pasta. It's my comfort food.
Amazing. Last question. When it comes to like play and being creative and taking a break, even if it's like a walk, I know you mentioned reading books and reading thrillers, but what are you obsessed with when it comes to play?
I love boxing.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and working out, like when I'm not doing an actual boxing workout, and this is like this is not aerobics. This is actually learning about boxing. I crave for it, and so like for instance,
Mm.
this week I did not go. The whole week I thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I did not go. But I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with boxing, and it's something that I have started recently, and it's something that just kept growing. Like it's an appreciation that kept growing. Yeah, it's so much fun. Honestly, it's so much fun.
You like with a kick or what's it called, a punching bag, or are you like sparring with other people?
It's both. So you have a boxing bag and you're also sparring with other people. You're exercising with other people. Like you're actually like punching people and you learn about different techniques. So you learn about self-defense.
That's amazing. I did not expect that answer. And that is just a whole nother level of you that I think is
Love,
so fun when
love
you
it.
get to see all these different sides of somebody. That's why
Yeah.
I love asking these questions.
Nice.
Well, I know you have got a flight to Singapore to catch. how can somebody who's listening connect with you?
Yes, I have a LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain. That's the easiest way for anyone to reach me out. I also have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. And if people want to find out more about the work that I do with women's empowerment, they should check out Women in Leadership Canada and look for Victoria chapter. That's the chapter that I volunteer for. There is an Instagram page, so they can just connect with me over there.
Amazing. And make sure to go get her book as well. Well, if you are still listening and hanging out with us, let us know. Contact us and send us a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram. And if you found this to be inspiring like I did, then send it to a friend that maybe needs to hear the reminder of any of this, how to live a great life, of how to really get in touch with who you are, even when you feel disconnected sometimes, and continuing to go on that journey. All right, y'all, let's go get obsessed.